Man, oh man, do we got a gym today. Buckle up, hombres, because we're about to take a little trip down to Cape Fear.
Hello? Popcorn delivery.
Put a little weekend in your week. Rent a video.
So as you may have heard, I'm a pretty big Scorsese fan. I like Scorsese. His movies are really good. But oddly enough, this is a Scorsese movie that doesn't feel like a Scorsese movie. No gangsters, no New York, none of that. It is set in the South. And as you may have heard, I don't really like movies set in the South that much. But oddly enough, Cape Fear manages to pull it off, as it were. But it really doesn't feel like a Scorsese movie for some reason. Now, of course, we got some repeating stars in here. Already in the series, we got returning Robert De Niro, one of my favorite actors of all time. And, of course, we have Nick Nolte as Sam Bowden. And Max Cady's just a great character. He should be up there with all the great film psychopaths. Norman Bates, Leatherface. Max Cady deserves a spot on that list. Excellent portrayal from Robert De Niro. And, of course, excellent portrayal in the original from Robert Mitchum. I've never seen the original Cape Fear. I really hope to get it on VHS sometime. It looks really good. On this tape, right before the movie, there's a trailer for the original Cape Fear, and it just looks so good. It looks good. But this right here is also a real good remake. This right here, I hear all the time lists of the best type remakes. You got The Thing, The Fly, Scarface. Chip Cape Fear up onto that list, because this is a gosh darn good adaptation. Very faithful, doesn't change too much. Changes just enough to make it unique in its own right. This is how to do a remake right here. It's a good remake. And of course, in my Meet the Parents review, I mentioned how there's only two types of Robert De Niro, two phases of his career. One is the taxi driver badass.
You talking to me?
One is the goofy Jack Burns bumbler.
Could you milk me?
But there is a third sort of Robert De Niro, the absolute crazy lunatic. Does Robert De Niro pull it off? Kinda, sorta. It's in between his two phases. He's not a badass, and he's not goofy and funny. He's just kind of pathetic. That's what Max Cady brings to the table here. A pathetic guy with a pathetic life, and I don't know, the scenes where he's shirtless, I gotta say, he's pretty buff. Like, his taxi driver abs are still there, but like, I don't know, he's getting kind of thin at this point, but, he's still good. He's still got it. Robert De Niro always, he's so versatile. Like, I buy him as Taxi Driver, I buy him as Jack Burns, I buy him as Max Cady. He's just a gosh darn diverse actor, one of the most, right there with Al Pacino, Dustin Hoffman, the absolute new Hollywood classics up in this is. Now, of course, the reason we're seeing so many stars repeat from review to review, I already got another Robert De Niro film. Later on in the series, you're going to be covering Taxi Driver, so, we got so much. The reason we got so much repetition is because back in the day, if you were a celebrity, you were a celebrity. And that's why outsider movies back in the day were so good, because they were an entire separate world from mainstream stuff. I mean, you couldn't just go into a Netflix office with a bale of money and say, hey, I want to be the next big celebrity. Either you were in the clique or you weren't. Either you were in Hollywood or you weren't. And, there's a big screen, there's a small screen. I really like that. Robert De Niro is a gosh darn big time cinema winner. Now, one of the things which makes this remake so good is that it's got Gregory Peck and Robert Mitchum and Martin Balsam, all three in this remake. I only really noticed Gregory Peck upon my first time watching this, but it's just so nice in a remake to see, the the same actors have different roles, you know, just as a little nod to the original. It's so cool. I like it when remakes do that. Some people don't like that. I see it as a token of respect to the original, saying, here, you know, it's a new movie, but, you know, it's not a sequel, it's a remake, but we'll cast some of the original stars in the remake, you know, because they're good actors and they deserve a part. And there's Gregory Peck's final film role. And his voice is very distinctive. It's one of those classic Hollywood voices. It just flows out nice and smooth. And you can definitely tell it's Gregory Peck. And of course, Robert Mitchum is in this. I didn't even notice Robert Mitchum or Martin Balsam. I'm going to need to rewatch this sucker and look out for their cameos, because I mean, gosh darn. And I really like Robert Mitchum. He's just so good, you know. Night of the Hunter, absolute classic, absolute film legend. And it's just great. It's just so good. Robert Mitchum's really nice. I need to see Cape Fear, the original, because you know, it's got to be as good as this or better. But there's one of the rare remakes that, you know, really captures the spirit and essence of the original. Now, of course, before I ever saw this film, I knew it from a parody on the Ben Stiller Show. The Ben Stiller Show has a parody of just about every big name film at that time. You got Jazzercise with Wolves, you got Cops in Salem. You know, it just really riffs on every pop culture ephemera of the time. I might do a review of the Ben Stiller Show. When I'm up ahead, you know, it's a good show. It doesn't get enough recognition. But there's a really funny parody of Cape Fear on the Ben Stiller Show.
I'm just saying I found your pet's collar. I'm not saying I did anything.
That's the first time I heard of it as a youngster, sitting back and watching the Ben Stiller Show on VHS. Good memories, good times. But the parody is really good. If you haven't seen it, go see it. Even the most dedicated Cape Fear fan could get a chuckle from it. With that said, all that said, this doesn't feel like a Martin Scorsese film. This is probably the least Martin Scorsese movie Martin Scorsese made. The soundtrack, for one, is very Hitchcockian, you know. Or, you know, even though Cape Fear wasn't a Hitchcock movie, I feel Scorsese really channels Hitchcock here. You got all these cool shots, you got all this dark lighting, you got, you know, it's maybe not Hitchcock, maybe just film noir in general, but I don't know, the soundtrack is very reminiscent of Psycho, or, you know, North by Northwest, or all of that, and, I don't know, it is very much a film noir. This isn't a neo-noir, as you may be told. This is just a noir. It's just a noir set in the 90s. Like, can we accept that? There's a difference between a classically done noir and a neo-noir that, you know, comments on the genre and reflects on it. This doesn't do that. This isn't a neo-noir. This isn't No Country for Old Men. This isn't, you know, whatever, Double Indemnity or whatever. This is a noir. This is a straightforward retelling of the original. And since it doesn't take too many departures from the original's plot, tone, setting, you can't call this a neo-noir. It's just a noir. You know, it's just the original, but with new actors and, you know, a different script, tossed up a little. Would I say Martin Scorsese's expertise comes in handy here? Yeah, definitely. It really does come in handy. Now, there's a sort of film, you know, there's a sort of film which really takes a genre that wasn't very popular at the time and says, look, it's a good genre. Go ahead and check it out. You know, this is a great entry point for those wishing to bask their toes in a little noir, because, I mean, you can't get better than this. Like Martin Scorsese, you know. And, you know, this isn't very well remembered among Martin Scorsese's lineup, because it is just a remake, and, you know, Martin Scorsese does the best when he's dealing with original material, but it cannot be understated how well his expertise comes in handy here. Like, it doesn't feel like you're watching a Martin Scorsese movie, it feels like you're watching Alfred Hitchcock back from the dead, you know. Just some really nice shots in here. The negative shots are a little cheesy. You know, when they came out, they weren't cliche yet. But the negative, I mean, I think this movie pretty much invented the negative shot, which is nice and interesting, and it does look kind of spooky. This feels more like The Firm or something, like the Southern Gothic crime tale. It doesn't feel like Martin Scorsese, but I don't know. I like this more than like Wolf of Wall Street, Wolf of Wall Street doesn't feel much like a Martin Scorsese film either, let's be honest. But I don't know. The soundtrack is very, full of these horns and creepy synths, and I don't know if there's too much synth, but like the soundtrack's really on point. The Cape Fear theme, it's so ominous and brooding, and it's full of atmosphere. You just feel the paranoia of Sam Bowden creeping in. Max Cady's outside the door. It's just like good. It's just so riveting and just wow. Like, I swear, if this wasn't in color, if this was in black and white, I probably wouldn't even be able to tell it was a 90s movie. I'd think, oh, this is some 60s shit,
Afternoon, counselor.
I mean, obviously, like, Juliette Lewis in this has, like, some 90s sensibilities, but I just think, oh, it's a little ahead of its time. Like, that's how the cinematography is. Like, the style is 90s, the technology is kind of 90s, but, like, this is a very 60s movie. How it's shot, how everything is paced, like, this is some 60s shit right here. It just feels good. It just feels good to see a film this dedicated to preserving the authenticity of an oft-neglected genre, noir. Now, of course, some might classify this as a thriller, and I wouldn't wrong you for that. This could be called a thriller. A thriller is a legitimate genre. For some reason, I watch this guy in Praise of Shadows all the time. Okay, reviewer, check him out if you haven't. His reviews are competent, but he believes a thriller isn't a real genre. And it's like, yeah, guess what? A thriller is a real genre. It really exists. What do you call a... This is a thriller, I mean, a thriller is a movie with a lot of suspense and a lot of scares, with no supernatural element. It's not a horror movie, and it's not a drama. It's, in between the two. A thriller is a legitimate genre. I hate to say that, but there are movies that can be classified as thrillers. Silence of the Lambs, it's kind of horror, but, Hannibal Lecter is just a cannibal, he's just a murderer, so at the end of the day, you could call that a thriller, and I'd be like, okay, fine, it's a thriller, Thriller is a legitimate genre. I wouldn't call this horror, because Max Cady isn't a freaking demon, he's just a guy. But, man, one guy can be pretty gosh darn spooky. On the back here it says, master filmmaker Martin Scorsese brings heart-pounding suspense to one of the most acclaimed thrillers of all time. 14 years after being imprisoned, vicious psychopath Max Cady emerges with a single-minded mission to seek revenge on his attorney, Sam Bowden. Cady becomes a terrifying presence as he menacingly circles Bowden's increasingly unstable family. Realizing he is legally powerless to protect his beautiful wife, Leigh, and his troubled teenage daughter, Danielle, Sam resorts to unorthodox measures which lead to an unforgettable showdown on Cape Fear. Visually stunning images and brilliant performances from a talented cast highlight this roller coaster ride through relentless psychological torment. And man, oh man, is that an accurate description of this little doozy. Cape Fear is as exciting as movies get, says Joel Siegel from Good Morning America, and man, oh man, is he correct. This is about as exciting as a film can get. Every second of this movie, you'll be scratching your head wondering, is Max Cady gonna come out of that truck? Where is he? Is he in the closet? Is he moving that tripwire? What's going on? Where's Max Cady and what's he up to? Now, of course, you have the very interesting, you have the very nice subplot where Sam Bowden, he has a co-worker, and, his wife suspects him of cheating on him. Even though he's just playing, like, squash with this co-worker. Very, very harmless fun. But, you know, his wife has some kind of outdated ideas about gender relationships in the workplace. She's like, oh no, you can't play squash with this lady. She, you know, you're smooching her behind my back. And Sam Bowden's like, no, I'm not. I just work with her. I'm just a little squash game. You know, that's a very interesting subplot, and it also makes a lot of sense for the blackmail bit. And it's just really, you know, and maybe he was smooching her, but I don't think so. It's never shown. But you know, just the idea of all these secrets, and you know, you definitely feel this family dissolving. You know, they're slow descent. And Max Cady, man, oh man, what a manipulator. What an absolute master flippin' manipulator.
Watch your step. And you know what I'm talking about.
What you gonna do, arrest me? You a cop, or were you a cop? Or were you not good enough to remain on the force? Because you know, well, that's the feeling I'm getting here.
It was someone who's dealt with a lot of threats in my time and a lot of, you know, a lot of shit, a lot of harassment. I can definitely see the potential in this sort of story. The powerless victim who gets harassed all the time, shat on, and, you know, random phone calls from anonymous strangers. Just on a personal note, you know, I can definitely get how Sam Bowden feels under constant, relentless torment from Max Cady, under some perceived injustice in the past, a long time ago, that Max Cady just won't forget, won't let go. But that's just me, of course, you know. Of particular note is the bit where, you know, Sam Bowden's like, I'm gonna frickin' murder you, because you're a piece of shit, and you're going to the doghouse, Buster. I will make your life a living hell. And Max Cady, being the little smart ass he is, pulls out his tape recorder, and he's like, I can't do anything now, because he's threatening me, Buster. And it's just great. It's just such a game of cat and mouse at Double Jeopardy, and it's like, man, you know, it says more Double Jeopardy than the show Jeopardy. It's just a total legal battle to the death, and the contrivances by which Sam Bowden is unable to convict Max Cady of anything. Like, he takes a bite out of a woman's cheek, you know. But you know, it's just you know, it's plausible. I really like how Martin Scorsese goes. You know, clearly he did his read up on law books and stuff, and figured out exactly, you know, how it could go down so that Max Cady is able to elude justice until Sam Bowden drowns him off Cape Fear. You know, just such an absolute slammer. And you know, of particular note is how gaudy Cady is with his car and his big, you know, giant red convertible.
Counselor, do I look destitute to you?
You know, he drives up, and, you know, obviously he's not trying to keep a low profile. He's taunting Bowden with just how noticeable he can be and get away with it. It's just a very nice touch, and I don't know if, you know, the parade scene or stuff like that was in the original, or the, you know, the subplot about the office affair, but I wouldn't even call it an affair. I mean, let's be real. He's just playing squash with his female coworker. But it is very nice to see, you know, the prejudices of the South laid bare, and his wife is very old-fashioned. And Nick Nolte does his best to put on a very light Southern accent, but not too much, you know, because he's a well-educated lawyer. And then Robert De Niro just has, like, this crazy good Southern accent. Like, I totally buy it. Like, he has it, you know. It's really good. Like, really convincing. Like, I buy Robert De Niro in this. Not so much after I've seen Meet the Parents. It kind of, you know, you should probably watch this before you see Meet the Parents. If you haven't seen Meet the Parents, watch this before. Because, you know, like I said, Robert De Niro is a very convincing actor. If you haven't seen Meet the Parents, you'll probably buy him in this 100%. Like, I like his hairstyle, you know, it's slicked back, and he's got this little tiny ponytail. It's just really, you know, this, you know, the sets aren't anything special.
I think we're alone now.
Like, the sets aren't anything great, but the lighting is really good. And like I said, the shot composition is really good.
Take the law into his own hands.
back and forth, you know, you just got this tense stuff. It's just like a rubber band. It's about to snap. This is a tense movie. And then when it does snap, man, oh man, it just freaking explodes. But this is a good demonstration of how to build and build and build and build up to a freaking climax, you know, up to a total, you know, just it's just like a dam about to burst, you know, just a freaking watershed up in this his ass. And that's what I really appreciate about the pacing. It's so good, you know. First you just see Katie driving up, and he starts up a little friendly conversation with Sam, and then by the end he's freaking, you know, shooting and freaking drowning and, you know, sloshing around on this freaking Floridian landscape. It's just excellent. Or Georgia or wherever it is, but Cape Fear is a real place, man. It's just like, man, you know. It's so excellent. It's so good. This is a good gush during, and Gregory Peck, like I said, is really good in this. You definitely feel, you know, if this is his last role, good enough for me. He's pretty good in this. If you like Gregory Peck, you'll like this. Gregory Peck fills those shoes, and you know, a very classic actor. You know, it is crazy to think that he's in this, like. And Robert Mitchum. Robert Mitchum's in some. I think he's one of the lieutenants or something. I looked on the Wikipedia page, but I didn't even notice him. That's how well his cameo is ingrained in there. It's really amazing. And of course, Telly Savalas is also in the original, which is, you know, just star-studded. I gotta see the original sometime, because unlike, you know, like The Thing, for instance, where the remake is only good because the original was pretty subpar and, you know, pretty lame.
Fuck you too!
This is a case where both the original and the remake are just like good, you know, and that's kind of, it's kind of rare, you know, and I think that's why maybe this isn't on like the best remakes list, you know, because most of the best remakes people talk about are like good remakes of movies that originally were like pretty, you know, substandard, you know, fare. Like, you know, like the original Scarface isn't as good as the new Scarface, but like the original Cape Fear looks really good, and I'd like to see it. And man, it just looks good, and I like Robert Mitchum. He's excellent, but Robert De Niro is definitely a good Max Cady, and I like both Max Cady's. I think Max Cady's a good character, and the plot of Cape Fear is just so good. It's just such a classic. This is a modern crime thriller. It is an absolute jam. So if you want to see, you know, a side of Robert De Niro maybe you haven't seen before, it's pretty interesting to see Robert De Niro try and, you know, be the next Hannibal Lecter. It can be pretty interesting. Pop this in some time, give it a watch, and have a look at it. Maybe you'll be like, man, how did I not know about this Martin Scorsese gem? But man, when Sam is hiding behind that dumpster and Max is like, come out wherever you are, it's just like so freaky and so freaking intense. Like, this movie knows how to pull out all the stops. So yeah, just have a watch of this, and it's just like, it's just so good. And definitely a 5-star movie, Cape Fear. 5 stars for Cape Fear, and glub glub. So yeah, that's Cape Fear for you. Very good movie. I highly recommend it. This is good bargain bin video rental store fare right here. If I saw this on the shelf at a Blockbuster back in the day, man, oh man, I would grab this sucker right up and bring it on home. Because I mean, this is the kind of movie in the 90s you just can't get today. This is not freaking Mind Hunters. This isn't freaking, oh, it's, freaking True Detectives. This isn't freaking True Detectives. This is Cape Fear. This is where it's at, people. If you think any streaming service can beat a movie like this, I'd like to see it try. Like, good luck on that. Freaking Irishman. Like, who even cares about The Irishman? It's on VHS. You think I'm gonna rent Netflix to watch The Irishman? Like, it's the only Martin Scorsese movie that's not on VHS, so I'm not... Except Wolf of Wall Street. Who the frick wants to watch Wolf of Wall Street? Like, hey, I have a lot of money, and I'm corrupt. Can I have 100 prostitutes, please? Says Leonardo DiCaprio.
I'm not fucking leaving!
Anyway, that's Cape Fear. Great movie all around. Great film. And if you like what you saw here, then smash that bell, smash that so-and-so, smash that thumbs up, smash the skash, and I will see you in the next one. If you'd like to support these reviews, keep them pumping out, support your boy, then write to Nicholas, Skate of 1424 Columbine Street, number 1, Denver, Colorado, 80226. I am feeling gosh darn pretty peppy about halfway through, not halfway through, about 1/4 of the way through this series, and I can't wait to watch another of these fine tapes and review them for you. So until the next one, sayonara, suckers.
White trash piece of shit.